everybody, and welcome to another episode of My Way. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, the creator, producer, and host of the Breakthrough Show Network and 856 other shows here going on. I'm so excited to be here with you for another episode tonight. I'm thrilled about our guest this evening. I want to invite you, whether you're new here or you're a veteran viewer, as we like to say, to use the comment section, whether you're live or on the replay. Say hello, let us know where you're joining from, interact with the show, ask your questions, because we love for the show to be interactive, like you're right here with us and able to have a conversation. Our special guest this evening has spent over 25 years as an entrepreneur and believes that we are all profoundly connected to one another, which I happen to agree with. This belief is apparent in his popular TEDx talk on radical empathy, which, brace yourselves here, even myself, the queen of breakthroughs, had her own breakthrough moments listening to him talk about radical empathy in my personal life and also as an entrepreneur as well. Please welcome the Chief Inspiration Officer of Connect, Peter Laughter. Peter, welcome to the show.
So excited to be here, and I love your intro, all of it. I'm so pumped up. Yeah.
I love it. We try to do it big here.
You succeed. You do not try, Jessica.
Thank you. Oh, I'm thrilled to have you here. We've already got Grim tuning in from Memphis, Tennessee. Hello, Grim. It's good to see you. Grim is also going to be coming up in April on My Way, so we're really excited about that. And the Jacksons are tuning in from Miami, Florida. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And good afternoon to the Jacksons. It's good to have you here. So I get in my rhythm with my morning show, and then I'm like, good morning. It's morning all day. Oh, I love it. Well, I'm so excited to have you here tonight, Peter, because like I mentioned, your TEDx talk on radical empathy, I consider myself to be an empath and somebody that's very empathetic. And it even had a profound effect on me because it helped me to change the way or I guess add a new layer to the way that I communicate with people, which is on the side of listening, which is something that I'm really working on myself. So has it, even after you doing the TEDx talk, has it been as profound of an experience for you as it maybe is for people that are listening?
Oh, the concept of radical empathy was something that profoundly changed my life. And it is a way of living and being, which is really hard for me particular, because I think, you know, it is the times we need empathy the most are when we're under the most stress and difficulty, where and it's precisely those times where being empathetic and understanding people outside of your own reality, it's when it's the hardest. So it's something that I do my best to, it's a path that I do my best to follow. And we're all human, and we easily get knocked off. And I think in those moments, it's really important to be empathetic for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine even in the last couple of years, we've had so many hot button topics come to light, come to the surface. We've all suddenly become experts in everything from infectious disease to human relations to all of these things. And there's some people that I think that are just so like almost unable to tap into the empathy because they're just so headstrong in what they believe, and this is what's right. And why do you think that is, Peter? Do you have any thoughts about the last couple of years and what we've been through, and why maybe it has been such a big challenge for people? Is it because the topics are so I guess fiery, or what is your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I think about it a lot, and I think we are in a real transformative time. I mean, I remember back all those movies, 2012, where everyone was talking about, you know, the Mayan calendar is coming to an end in 2012, and the world is ending. And there's a group of Mayans who are like, "Will you please stop asking? The world is not ending. This is just the end of an era."
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the upheaval of this time is this lie that we are separate and alone is starting to be realized.
Mm,
And it is for some, this recognizing that deep connection that we share with each other and all of humanity is frightening. And it does represent a change where we no longer live in a world where it can be just me, just my interest. Yeah, that
mm,
we're clearly seeing that for all of us to be safe, like none of us are safe until all of us are safe. Yeah, and I
mm,
think particularly in this moment in time, yeah, it's very, very easy to think that the war in Ukraine is just the war in Ukraine. Yeah,
right.
but now that we have a nuclear power that is backed up against the wall, it's not just the war in Ukraine. It affects all of us.
Mm,
Yeah, someone who gets sick in China can infect all of us. Yeah,
yeah.
the environment, the problem in the environment, yeah, at the equator is going to impact all of us. And I think
Mm,
this profound understanding that we are all deeply connected is a frightening one, and it is causing upheaval. But it is, I believe, upheaval recognizing that there is a greater future for all of us on the other side.
absolutely. And I think about it as well in a way of being energetically connected, even. So, if we're all energetically connected and now we're coming across people that, God forbid, don't agree with the same thing we believe in, but how could we possibly be connected to them? That's a scary thing
Yes.
to think about for any human.
And particularly when you're scared about your own survival, right?
Oh,
Yeah, like
yeah.
I have to worry about them too. And we really don't, but we need to be considerate of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And we need to
absolutely.
be part of it. So
Right, absolutely. Well, I listen, if you're just jumping in this evening, we'd love for you to head over to the comments, say hello, let us know where you're joining from. Let us know if you have any questions for Peter as we go throughout. We've kind of I wanted to jump right in because I was so moved by his TEDx talk. I was like, I just want to jump into the deep end of the pool, and now we can backtrack a little bit. Peter, let everybody know where you're joining from tonight, and tell us a little bit about how were you 5 years old going, I want to be an entrepreneur? Like what you've been an entrepreneur a long time.
no, I have been an entrepreneur for a long time, but it was a surprise. Like many entrepreneurs, I fell into it. So I've been in Brooklyn, New York for my entire adult life. I grew up in Manhattan and I went to high school in downtown Brooklyn. And then, when I graduated from college, I found myself back in New York without much of a plan. And Brooklyn was back then an affordable place to live. And I loved it. I grew up in New York City, which was a little cold and impersonal, and Brooklyn was just it was a neighborhood. I'll never forget. My local corner store. I stopped by and I realized I had forgotten my wallet, and and I said, "Oh, can you just keep my things here and I'll run home and get my money?" The guy said, "Peter, you're here every other day. Forget about it. Just take your stuff, bring the money next time you're here. It's no big deal." And I realized, like, oh, this is home. And when I got married 21 years ago, I told my wife, look, yeah, I'm never leaving Brooklyn. And if you're okay with that, then let's get married. And if not, I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
But I love Brooklyn. And as far as being an entrepreneur, I never really expected it. My plan was I was a social worker when I graduated from college, and I was working in the foster care system. And my plan was to do that and then get my PhD and teach sociology somewhere. And I
Mm,
thought that would be a great life. Little did I know that it would have driven me crazy. And I had taken a night job at a temporary staffing firm that had a 24-hour component of their business where they worked with word processing and presentation centers and banks and law firms. And I took the job because I don't know if you know, social work is not a very lucrative field.
mm.
So I
Sure.
needed a little extra. And the there wasn't a lot of business, and so I was at
Mm,
home waiting for the phone to ring to fill orders for temporary staffing at night, and I started selling, and I had no idea, and I'd never been in sports when I was a kid. That
mm.
came to me later, but I had no idea that I'm insanely competitive, and I
Ah,
love sales. And but then I was really what I was doing is I was putting people to work. And I'll never forget Christine Smith. She said something that changed my life. She said, "Peter, I just want to thank you. I am able to pursue my dream as an actor because you help me pay the rent. And I couldn't do it without you. And I wanted to thank you." And I had been working as a social worker, just barely holding my cases together. There was no improvement. I was there to keep people from falling apart, but I wasn't really helping people grow.
Ah.
And in that moment, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm having more of a difference in the world in my night job than I am in my day job. And I'm having more fun, and I'm building something, and I see progress. And the owner of the company had been asking me to come to join her full time and do sales full time. And I kept saying, no, no, social work, PhD, teach sociology. That's my path. And then this happened, and I realized there's so much more possible. And she gave me a deal that I would get a percentage of equity, depending on growth.
Mm.
And so we started that year. It was in '94. I joined full time in '95, but '94 sales were about $500,000, and by 2001 they were at 12 million. And I ended up
Wow.
with almost half the company.
That's incredible.
It was a wild ride, man. Yeah, it was, and I think that is the key to being an entrepreneur, and also very key to being empathetic is continually realizing that you have no idea what you're doing.
Oh, see, I'm so glad you said that, Peter,
Yeah.
because I feel like that regularly.
It is, and I think that it is being in that space of just being willing to be curious and recognize that you have no idea, and that
Right.
everything that got you to this point in time isn't going to get you to what's next.
Yeah.
And so it's a continual process of reinvention.
Well, see, Peter, it sounds like work, and everyone knows that once you're an entrepreneur, you don't actually work. Like you just, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I think I missed that class.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did too, because I work more now than I did when I worked for someone else.
Yeah, no, I am in an entrepreneur role, but I've actually, since the first time since 1994, I do have a job, which is fascinating. But
Mm,
yeah, but we'll get to that a little later. But
yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, also, I know so many of the people joining us tonight are entrepreneurs. Everybody, in fact, that has joined so far tonight is an entrepreneur. Kevin Kiley's here this evening, who's a singer-songwriter. Brittany here this evening. Namaste, my friend. It's good to see you. Who has, like, I don't know, what do you have now, Brittany? 10 businesses? I'm not sure. But I know that they're all hard workers. And I was just talking about that with the Jacksons earlier as well, where there's so many people even that come into the space of having a show or podcasting that think that they're just going to come have their show and that somebody's going to put it out for them automatically. Like they just show up and do it and it automatically all gets done. That's not how that works. I can assure you.
if you could tell me what that app is too, I need the non-working class in entrepreneurialism, and I need the automatic podcasting app. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Working, the Jacksons say, as an entrepreneur, working all the time, and about 10 businesses, Brittany. I'm glad I was right on with that. Yeah, so I'm sure it's been a lot of hard work for you throughout the years, but it's rewarding, I think, when it's like children. And I know that you have a daughter, Peter, so we can speak to this as well. It's like because for me, when I put something out there, that's my baby. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have created it, I have nurtured it, and now I'm watching it fly, kind of thing. And so has it been that experience with you? Do you feel very protective of these businesses that you are a part of?
It's interesting. My thinking about that has shifted dramatically over the years, and so I used to really hold it very close, and less so now. And I think really for me, the question is not so the business, but the purpose of what brings me to the business and how do I advance that purpose.
Right.
And so one of the traps that I really fell into with my first business, Wall Street Services, was really that sense of possession and ownership. And it became my world. And the truth is it's not my world. The fact that I'm an entrepreneur, even if I don't own a business, that is part of who I am. But if I
Mm.
connect it to a business, I'm trapped in that business. And so when that business stopped serving me, when that industry changed, I held on for a lot longer than I should have. And had I had the perspective of I have now, of being able to let things go much easier, I would have been in a much better place. I would have sold that business, at the height or closest to the height, rather than holding on to
Mm.
when the business had shifted and became really not that much fun for me. Um,
Peter, that's so good about you, how you said you're an entrepreneur, even if you don't own a business at the time, because there are people out there that are literally teaching that if you do not have a business, if you're not making money at the time, if you're not whatever it is, that you are not an entrepreneur until you insert whatever here.
I that it is part of who you are.
Mm,
And you think, I mean, my wife is a painter, and her process is to see something in her mind's eye and to bring it into reality. And
mm,
for me, that is at where I am creative. That is what being an entrepreneur is to be able to have a vision and bring it into reality. And that can happen in a number of different formats. And I think it's important to recognize that. And that's part of who I am, and it's part of where I'll be. And sometimes, that and it also, when you're standing in that and standing in your purpose, and you're looking to magnify the impact of that purpose, then the vehicle, it's not so important. You can, there's many things that you can do that to live that out. And so that has really shifted things for me quite dramatically. And
yeah.
it was really pathological for a while. I had to be a business. I had to own a business. That was very, very important to me. And being able to let go of that gave me tremendous freedom, and allowed me to start to play in a field that was um, much bigger. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And much more exciting. But it also, I think, when you're holding on to that, businesses go up and businesses go down. And if you are that business, then your happiness, your satisfaction is always going to be tied to that business. And sometimes it's what you do, and sometimes it's what the market does. And we all
yeah.
got a message. We all got that message, in March of 2020. Right? Yeah. Yeah. That was,
What happened then?
yeah, yeah, that
I
never,
blocked it out, Peter.
exactly. It changed everything, changed everything. And for those of us who hold on to our sense of success and our sense of worth and our sense of happiness through what our business is doing, yeah, March of 2020, you were miserable and you were a failure, and it had
Mm,
nothing to do with you. And guess what? That's not true. It's not true. Yeah,
mm,
yeah, and your ability to ride that wave, to deal with that challenge, when your conversation is, "Oh my God, everything's falling apart. I am horrible. I'm a failure." Yeah, if that's your conversation, you will not see the opportunities necessary to get yourself out of that situation. You will not see the opportunities that present themselves within crisis. Yeah,
mm,
and so there's plenty of companies, and we see it, who have failed and didn't make it through the pandemic. But there's plenty
mm.
of businesses that have thrived, that reinvented themselves, that saw a bigger possibility for themselves, that changed. There's a neighborhood in Brooklyn. There's a soda shop, and it's an old, it's called Pharmacy, and it's modeled after one of the old soda fountain place, pharmacy places, and they
Mm.
serve great desserts and grilled cheese sandwiches, and they were obviously, like any restaurant, decimated. And thank God we didn't discover. My wife had long COVID early on in 2020, and when she came out, she said, "I want a sundae." And we ordered a sundae from this place, and they delivered. I was like, "It's probably not going to be good. They're a mile away. Yeah, by the time it gets there, it's going to be melted." They perfected the art of delivering a perfect
Mm,
sundae in a container, and I was amazed. Now, they're open now. They've got customers, but you know what also they have? They have
mm,
all sorts of people like me who would never occur to them to order a sundae on a Thursday night to celebrate something in their family and to have it delivered at their doorstep. looking just the way it would if you had it at their counter.
Mm,
Now their business has dramatically expanded. Yeah, and it's because they had an opening. They were able to see something bigger than the crisis, and they've created something, yeah, that will last them forever. Now they have more business than they started with.
mm.
Yeah, but
It
more
was
importantly, they
it was
see
definitely like, oh, sorry, Peter, go
yeah,
ahead.
they see more opportunities, and they'll
Mm.
continue to see opportunities to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last couple of years have really been, I mean, we watched people either sink or swim. I mean, and it was and not just swim, but swim really well. Like we saw people like you're talking about with the ice cream shop that perfected this new way of doing things that was fantastic. Grim was talking about what we were talking about
Just
of
seeing
it
that.
being her.
Congratulations, Grim. Yeah.
Yes, her best years, and that was a dream come true for her. And Grim's amazing, by the way. Grim is the one that she has been my coach in building my website for all these years. So she's fantastic. Really appreciate her, and she's been doing some great work. But I know that I can speak for her and I that in our own businesses we've had a hard time at times, having a little bit of that detach of going like, okay, not getting completely wrapped up in not just this is my business, but this is who I am.
Yes.
And so when you start having any kind of challenges, then you feel like you're a failure, you're a
Mhm.
problem, and it can be really challenging to navigate that when we do. And so that's been part of my journey, I feel like, as well as kind of not getting so wrapped up in this is my business, but I am not my business. Like it's not
Yeah.
who I am. So I love
Yeah.
that as well.
But it also, I think, and when you live through purpose, your purpose has plenty of ways to manifest itself,
Mm,
and it really, and for me, that was the real key, is being able to live out of that and seeing something much bigger than my business, and but also really important, bigger than your challenges, bigger than your failures, that and to be able to know that those things that didn't work out, those things are what allowed me to be where I am right now.
mm.
So were they failures? Definitely not. Definitely not. And it's from that
Yes.
perspective that allows for those realizations to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Grim said, I love the guy that made the business out of the squirrel picnic table. I still need one of those out in my yard, Grim. This needs to happen. I'm just because the squirrels, they're waiting for it out there. There's a big one out there. I thought it was a dog the other day. Uh,
That's a big deal.
that was a big squirrel. For Alabama squirrels, they're not usually that big here. Brittany said, it's definitely been an eye opener, and I'm proud of all my growth since all of that. I think that's huge too, Peter. Can you look back at your entrepreneurial journey and see your growth, year one compared to year 25?
If I met my 2019 self, I'm not quite sure I would recognize that guy. So yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, that is definitely something. But I think with that, like when we look back and we think, oh wow, I've grown and changed so much, we tend not to look forward with that same perspective, right? Yeah, we think like, oh, this is me always and forever. And I think that's what's really exciting is that we are always emerging and growing and stepping into to who it is that we were most meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So Peter, I mentioned the TEDx talk that you did, Radical Empathy. Throughout all of this, one of the things that you share at the end of that TEDx talk, so spoiler alert, if you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to it. But and I'm going to put the link down below for you guys as well here in just a minute. But you share about, when you drop the ball, and we can speak to this as an entrepreneur as well. So whether you drop the ball at being empathetic towards someone else or you just drop the ball, period, to having that empathy for yourself, how important has that been throughout your entrepreneurial journey? Did you have to learn to have empathy for yourself, or has it always been pretty easy for you?
It's never. I am very
I'm,
hard on
I'm
myself.
giving you the benefit of the doubt, Peter.
No, I am my biggest critic, and
Mm,
I am, yeah, very, very, very hard on myself. And I think it is the thing that is most important is to remember to be kind to ourselves and to
mm,
recognize that we are human, and we fall down, and we make mistakes, and we get scared, and we get caught up in our own conversation, and and yeah, yeah, and when and that's a continual realization, that we need to keep remembering. It's not like, the negative conversations that we all hold about ourselves, that they never go away. They never go away. We get better at recognizing them. And we when we recognize them, we can make choices to listen to them or not. But sometimes we get stressed and we're not conscious of those choices, and we listen to those negative conversations, we listen to those angry conversations, we react to people. And would it be helpful if I gave just a quick primer on what radical empathy is?
Yes, absolutely.
So my mother had a condition called borderline personality disorder that plagued her for all throughout my life, and which caused these just dramatic swings and attacks. And when I was able to recognize that those attacks came from this condition, I was able to stop reacting to when she would attack, and I recognized, oh, she's feeling threatened somewhere. And this attack is just a symptom of feeling threatened, of that misconception. And so the need to react to her bad behavior and respond in kind ended when I had that realization. And I could sidestep that and say, hey, what's going on? Why are you speaking this way? And address the core of what was happening, and get back to normalcy with her. And it really transformed our relationship. And after a fight and a difficult moment with my wife, I realized that fight was the source of her reacting to something I had said, and touching something that was tender on her side and caused a reaction. And I wondered, what if our natural state of humans was one of connection and relation, and any behavior outside of that was a sign of dis-ease, of a sign that someone was in pain. And if you could hold that space when someone was inappropriate, it doesn't mean that you needed to accept it or welcome it or forgive it, but you didn't need to react in kind. You didn't need to take it personally, because it wasn't. That bad behavior was a result of that person being in pain. And with that understanding, you can transform a conflict in a really, really effective way. And the trick is that's really hard, particularly in those moments of stress. We're scared, we're frightened, we don't know what's happened. We're holding on to things, and it's very easy for us to react in kind. And so I think in those moments, where we have, and I was thinking about it. I was riding my bike, and a guy swerved in front of me, and I thought I was going to die. And I yelled at him, and I was horribly inappropriate. And when I thought about it, I was like, oh my God, you don't speak to people that way. That's like, but it was, and is it appropriate for me to speak to people that way? Definitely not. Is it understandable? It totally is. And both of those things can exist in the same time. It's not how I want to be with people. And it's not how I want to be with people, but sometimes I am. And for me, anger is my go-to emotion. If I am scared, if I'm depressed, anything that happens, anger is what happens first. When my wife trips and hurts herself, I get angry. It's the first thing, because she's what's most precious to me, my wife and my daughter. Oh my God, she's gonna get hurt. It scares me. And giving yourself room for those things, and being able to forgive yourself so that you can better recognize them when they surface again. Oh, there I go. I'm getting scared. I recognize it. I'm not going to get angry. I'm gonna ride this out.
Yeah, absolutely. Grim says that's her hobby. Happy or mad, no in between. It's just one or the other.
Sorry,
and my
Graham.
husband's like that as well. We all have Peters in our lives. For sure. But yeah, that I think, and that made me really recognize for me too, like what is my thing that I go to when I'm going through different things. And for me, a lot of times it's sadness. I mean, not even just sadness, but just super heavy emotion. There's the crying that happens. I could be really happy, really sad, really angry. I'm crying. Either way, you know that what if I'm crying, whatever I'm feeling is pretty big, and that happens often. So I just put that out there. Angelique said, I've had to learn empathy for myself personally and in business. She's still learning. And I think we all are. I mean, we can choose. We talk about this. Brittany and I talked about this the other day. Because Brittany's a level 2 Reiki practitioner and I'm a Reiki master, and we were talking about how like you don't just become spiritual and then the end and then everything is fine. It is this continual choice
I
to
wish.
be empathetic.
Yeah.
I know, right? There's no finish line.
Like,
You have arrived.
yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
Congratulations. If you have arrived, I don't think you're alive anymore.
Yeah. That's the end of the game. And
Yeah.
and that is yeah, it was always really interesting because I would look at people, I thought, oh, they've got it worked out. And the truth is nobody does. Yeah. And there's great freedom in that. Yeah, to be able to recognize that we are that we are always going to be imperfect, and it's
Yeah.
always going to be a journey. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love kind of you say in the TEDx, slow down, pay attention, and be curious. And that curiosity was something that I came in very close contact with and really changed my whole life in probably towards the end of 2020, when everything started coming to front page news about a lot of the racial issues around the United States, especially. There's a friend of mine who continued to post things on social media that were very hurtful towards a very large group of people. And there was several times, like I am good at scrolling and just being like, okay, not my circus, not my monkeys, kind of thing. But it started to sting every
Yeah.
time I would see something, and I'm like, this does not, like, it's really not sitting well with me. So finally I stopped myself and I said, what must she have been through in her life to reach this space? And for me, I didn't need an answer to that. I didn't need to be like, message her and say, what have you been through? And because that it wasn't what, because she's been through what she's been through. So my opinion was that curiosity was enough, that I didn't necessarily need an answer. How do you feel about that, Peter?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because it's the response to behavior of blatant racism of you're horrible is not going to move anything forward.
Mm,
And that understanding, it doesn't make it okay.
mm,
The fact that someone is hurting because they have been hurt, which is really why people hurt,
yeah.
it doesn't make it okay. But we don't need to react to it in the same way. And
Mm,
I think that moment to pause to say that, might open up a very, very different conversation from
right.
that perspective. And I think and that's really what we need to allow for grace, isn't it?
Mm,
Is that understanding. Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
so.
Absolutely. Grim says, between the election, the pandemic, and the protests, my Facebook timeline is all entrepreneurs that I like. Everyone else is hidden on my timeline. Sometimes you have to do that. You have to
uh,
create those boundaries, right?
Well, my boundary is I haven't even logged on. I logged on Facebook to get someone's contact information or to reach out
Yeah.
to, once, but in the last 6 months. But I can't even do it anymore.
Yeah.
It's too much. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely, and we had a whole segment on that, and on my morning show, Project Joy, where we were talking about, there's so many people that scroll through their news feeds and complain about the things they're seeing, so we had a whole segment about, you can control that, right? There are block buttons, there are buttons that are, timeout type buttons where it's blocking for a certain amount of time, and also the more you search for different things or purposely go to certain places, the more they will show up automatically in your timeline because you're being intentional about visiting there. And so we've talked about that before, where people I think have felt during this time that they're out of control. They're really not. You do have more control than you realize. And sometimes the answer is just being like Peter, staying off of it for a little.
Well, and like, many people have businesses, and live on Facebook, and they need it. And I don't think there's inherently, anything wrong with it, but I think it is, that's, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, it's just protecting yourself and protecting your thinking is also important. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, so you have a new position, I hear, Chief
Mhm.
Inspiration Officer. What in the world is this, Peter?
Well, so I think, let me step back a little bit. So I have
Sure.
been in the recruiting and staffing industry for 25 years. And one of the things that what I loved when I got into it, we were specialists, and we worked with executives who needed a flexible staffing solutions, very, very, very high end problems that required very, very carefully selected people. And I had real partnerships with my clients, and I was able to provide my employees with amazing jobs. And over the years, and particularly after the financial crisis, that business became commoditized, and I was less effective in that area. But it was one of the things that and during that time, things changed for me. And when your business when your product is people, it is very easy to think of people as product. And I fell into that rut around 2009. And I was very fortunate to have an employee who got in my face and said, the way we're interacting is a violation of our core values. And
Wow.
and that was a transformative moment on a number of different fronts. One, because I recognized that that the answer to the problem I had was not with me; it was with my employees. And the way I was looking at it, with how I was interacting with people, was the problem. And that opened up this understanding that really led to my purpose, that we as human beings are profoundly and deeply connected to one another. And what my purpose is to raise up those connections so they're visible in our day-to-day existence. So we see them and recognize them as a source of insight and inspiration and belonging and strength. And I couldn't do that in a commoditized business. And so I sold that company, and I started a new staffing company with the idea of transforming it into a platform for independent management consultants. I was essentially taking on the ridiculous task of starting one business so that I could start another. And I recognized that wasn't the case, that I was ever going to be able to be successful doing that. And that the industry of staffing inherently, of recruiting in general, takes a supply chain approach to the hiring of people. People are not pencils or calculators or ICUs. They're not. And we need a fundamentally different approach to how we interact with people. And I think if you look at the world in which we live in, less than 20% of people are fully engaged with their work. It's criminal. It is criminal. The thing that we do for the majority of our waking hours is just something we are putting up with, trying to get to the end of the day, to thank God it's Friday so that we can live our life. This concept of work-life balance, as if we have work and we have life, and they're two separate things, and we need to balance them out. There is no such thing as work-life balance. There is only life. And so I am clear that our workplaces need to foster this sense of wholeness, of collaboration, and this idea that the people at the top are the only ones who know what's going on, and the people at the bottom need to be directed like puppets, and to do what they're supposed to do. That might have been true 2,000 years ago when people needed to know, better farming practices. We don't live in that world.
That's why we don't need daylight savings time either anymore. I'm just trying to say.
I'm still having trouble waking up in the morning, so I'm with you
right,
there.
thank you. I'm glad to not be alone in that.
But I mean, really, this is a dynamic and beautiful world. And that moment where this problem that I was struggling with was brought to light by that woman Becky. When I realized, the source of the answers, they're not here, they're out there. And when I look at organizations, where that struggle, so 60 to 70% of all strategic initiatives in large organizations end in failure. That number hasn't changed for 20 years.
Wow.
And that number is, and think about the billions and trillions of dollars that have been wasted for people doing the same thing over and over again. And what it is it's making a decision on what needs to happen at the top and trickling it toward the bottom. And that's not how change happens. That's not how transformation happens. So I had the great pleasure of joining a small group of really visionary individuals who understand that there is brilliance within every organization. And it is a question of how it is that you change the listening to uncover that brilliance, to bring those solutions that in retrospect seem obvious, but in the moment seem almost impossible because they are within the organization, not at the top, but throughout the organization, within the minds and hearts of the employees. And all you have to do is change how people are cherished and listened to uncover those organizations. And so Connext is an organization that is solving really, really complex problems by changing the way organizations work. And I realized that it was an opportunity for me to play at a level that was much bigger than I have ever played before.
That's incredible. It seems like you're the eyes and ears that are sometimes needed and sometimes difficult for us to see in our own companies. I've talked to, in my Reiki practice, in my own coaching practice, I've talked to people before about taking yourself kind of to that mountaintop space, which is challenging for people to do because we are wrapped up in whatever is going on in our day to day. And sometimes it's hard to see different things. So I love that they brought in somebody like yourself that and someone with quote unquote good bedside manner, because you know about this empathy thing. And they could have brought in somebody who might be a really, really amazing with business and really good eyes and ears, but not necessarily have that empathy piece that you're clearly really tapped into. And I think it's nothing but an asset for them. Do you feel at home with this company?
Do I feel at home with this company? I am more uncomfortable and stretched than I've ever been in my life. So I so appreciate your generous, assessment that I am, bringing greatness to them. No, I am sitting at the feet of greatness, desperately trying to catch up. Is really, but I think you put on. I have a unique perspective that is needed, in the organization, and I have something to add. And it's a very new experience for me to be part of a team, to actually have a boss, which I haven't had ever. I don't have the distinction boss. So it is probably one of the most challenged, and having to learn at somebody else's pace is something I have not had to do since I was 22. So it is it's very, very, very challenging, and I have a tremendous amount to learn, and definitely a tremendous amount to contribut, but it is there's a lot there that I have to do, and to bring up. But for me, it was a real clear, if my purpose is to rise up those profound connections that we share with everyone, then the question is how can I do that on a much greater platform? And I was really clear in interacting with this group of people that this was a chance for me to magnify that. And had I held on to my business as my identity, I never would have seen that opportunity. Being able to let go of that and to be able to play a different game. I might be successful. I think I will be successful. I want to be successful. I might fail, but if I do, that's okay, because it's that purpose that will lead me to recognize what it is from this experience that I can take to what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Brittany says challenges are always fun with some pretty scared faces after that. So.
Well, and that's the trick, Brittany, is how is it that we face challenge? Like, oh, this is my opportunity to step into something new, as opposed to how I normally deal with challenge. Like, I don't want to, kicking and screaming, trying to avoid it. And that's where the pain is. That's where the pain comes from. It is not accepting the change. But there's a Buddhist koan that I try and live by, and it's life is suffering, and suffering is a result of holding on to things that do not last.
Oh, okay. Let me blow you up, Peter, and say that again. Go ahead.
Life is suffering, and suffering is holding on to things that do not last. And so when I find myself in a place of suffering, it is a question of what is it that I'm holding on to that no longer is relevant, that is no longer serving me, that no longer exists, that I need to let go of in order to take on what is next. But we don't, sometimes it's hard to see, and change is hard, particularly when we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. Actually, change is not hard. There's all sorts of change. Getting a puppy, that's a great change. We love that. Getting a raise, awesome change. I've never won the lottery, but I would imagine it would not be difficult. So those kind of changes are easy, where we know what it is. Yeah, but that change where we don't know what that change is going to bring, that's really hard and scary. We tend to fight it. Yeah, I do. I fight it all the time. Yeah, and right now, as I'm in this challenge of doing something that I'm inherently uncomfortable with, yeah, man, I fight it every step of the way, and that's what's painful.
Yes, absolutely. Brittany said, "Live in hope each day and take it on with joy." Hey, look, it can be.
I'm trying, Brittany. I'm trying.
Challenges can be just that. That's it. They can be a challenge, or we can say, "Look what I get to do today." And it's not always easy in our humanness especially when something really is a difficult challenge, to look at it from that perspective. But if we can just try, we might be able to experience even more than we planned for. Peter, I have a very important question for you. Because you have a boss now, does that mean you're not an entrepreneur anymore?
I will always be an entrepreneur. I won't always have a boss. Yeah. No, I don't think that changes. And part of what I do is within this company, is to foster new businesses and to help other companies, foster new businesses. So that identity as an entrepreneur, I will never give that up. And it was my wife who taught me that. She's an artist, even when she's not painting. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You're right. We should have her on the show. That's very good, because I know I was talking to someone about I have a history of I used to sing on stage, and I wrote music, and even though my life has looked different the last almost 21 years of having all these babies and being the mom and everything else, and now doing my show and authoring and all of these other things that I'm doing. When I went to go work on writing a song recently, I said, well, somebody asked, well, are you a songwriter? And I was like, well, I used to, kind of you used to do that kind of, a long time ago type thing. And they were like, no, you're still a songwriter. You're
Doesn't
still
change. Yeah.
It hasn't changed. You just maybe haven't done it in a minute, but that doesn't take away this part of you that's always been there. So that's such a good, thank you.
Just ask a Marine, right?
Yeah.
I met somebody hasn't been in the military for 20 years. Still a Marine. Yeah.
That's my dad. My dad was Navy for 23 years, and he's working for himself now. My dad is Santa. I don't know if you know this, Peter. My dad is actually Santa Claus now.
That's a good dad to have. I
Right?
don't know. Christmas at
My
your house must be
my
awesome.
kids are like, they think they've got it made. Let me tell
I'm sure
you.
they do.
But it's like but now but he's always got that. He's still up real early. When he came to visit, my whole house was sleeping, but Santa would come early and have coffee with me because he was up. He's just always been in that military sort of up early, get things done that you need to get done sort of. And he's you can't change that part of him for sure. Brittany said, where the discomfort lies, so does growth. You're doing pretty great, I'd say. So we all love you, Peter.
Feeling is very mutual, Jessica.
I love that you are or you're not, but once you are, you always will be. Yes.
Yep.
So good. So good. Well, Peter, for anybody watching, obviously we have learned tonight, the show is My Way. We've learned that you've done things your way throughout your entrepreneurial career. And now as your new job as Chief Inspiration Officer, you're definitely doing things your way as well. But if someone is watching the show, one of the things that I love to ask every guest that comes on, and they've got a business or they're working for someone else and they're like, they feel stuck. They feel like everybody's giving them advice and they just can't find what their way is. They just can't do things their way. What would you tell them?
Well, so I think there's two things. I think, when we're stuck, we can't do it alone. And we have to recognize that our ability to, when we are feeling down on ourselves or we are stuck in holding on to something that does not last, community is always the way out. Those people who see a bigger version of ourselves, who see possibility where we see failure, are people we need in our lives. Now, advice is a very different thing than shared experience, right? Yeah, I can tell you what I think you should do, and I will most likely be wrong. But if I share with you what happened to me and what I did in a similar situation, that might open up a bigger version of yourself. A bigger or open up a bigger possibility for yourself, and that's exciting. So have community, don't take advice. Really look for shared experience.
Yeah. So good, because it plays into so much what we try to do here on the Breakthrough Show Network. And we love to just have conversations here. We never want it to be here are the 10 things you're going to learn on today's episode. We just don't do that here. And I really feel like this method of sharing experiences through storytelling is so powerful, because no one wants to be preached to. We all like to sit around the fire. Isn't it more fun to sit around the fireplace and tell stories? I think so anyway.
Well, can I tell a story about that real quick?
Sure.
So when it was toward the end of my days in the staffing business in 2019, I was really stuck and I really hated that industry, but I had been in so long and I wanted the big payout, but I hated the business. And and the results were predictable. Things were not growing, they were staying. And I was having dinner with my friend Joanna, and I asked her for advice, and she said, well, I think the problem is that you don't believe in you. And she said it, and it was like thunder. I was like, that is the truth. And that next Sunday, I got up early and I'm cleaning up the kitchen and I'm listening to the radio. And there's this show On Being that I love. And Brene Brown was on. And she says, if you have a bad conversation about yourself, if you have a negative conversation about yourself, you can't solve it on your own, because your negative confirmation bias will always gather more and more evidence to support that negative conversation. And I'm washing dishes and I turn around to the radio and I say, well, what the F do I do now, Brene? Yeah.
And that's all we have time for. That's great.
but and that's what I realized. And I got a coach. Yeah. And that was my way out.
And we have those moments. I put a question on my social media the other day about, have you ever listened to a song or watched a movie and had a whole breakthrough moment from that? And that's what that's what this network's all about, because they can really come from anywhere, whether it's washing dishes with Brene Brown or listening to Metallica, whatever it is that you're doing, you can have a breakthrough moment too. Peter, let everybody know where they can find you. And also, I did put the link to Peter's TEDx in the comments. You can also find the website connext.com in the show notes as well. But anywhere else you want people to
LinkedIn
find
is
you.
great. And I've taken a little break for my LinkedIn posting as I'm getting my arms around Connect's messaging, but that is forthcoming. So stay tuned.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Well, I'm excited to see what's to come and watch you in action as you embrace this new role. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Peter. It was a wonderful conversation, and everybody's voicing that in the comments right
This
now.
was a real pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a great getting to speak to you with you, Jessica.
Absolutely, Peter. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening wherever you are in the world today. You guys had some great comments throughout the episode. I encourage you, if you are on the replay, to also please comment. I love to go back and interact with you guys as well. I want to remind you of a couple, 2-3 things, as my girl Megan McGlover says. We have Project Joy Live, of course, tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. That's every weekday morning with myself. Start your day with a triple shot of good vibes. And then tomorrow is Wednesday. So, of course, Divine DNA will be on at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern Time with the Jacksons. We're diving deep into relationships again tomorrow night, you guys. So don't miss out on that. If you want to know when these things are on, you can join our text community. Just text the word breakthrough to 256-685-7092 in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico. If you are not in those areas or you don't want text messages, that's fine too. You can join us in our Discord community. Just go to bit.ly/Discord breakthrough, bit.ly/Discord breakthrough. And we have some really fun tours coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the Discord community, because it all got revamped and it's beautiful now and everything else. So we're going to show you around there this weekend. Thank you guys for watching or listening wherever you are in the world. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for Judy Otten on another episode of My Way. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.